On a windswept plain in England, there's a circle of stones that has fascinated people for, well, thousands of years. It's a prehistoric puzzle, a masterpiece of ancient engineering. And it's one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. So, let's get into it. What exactly is the secret of Stonehenge?
First, let's just try to wrap our heads around the time scale here. The story of Stonehenge begins 5,000 years ago. To put that in perspective, that's older than the Great Pyramids of Giza. It's older than written language in a lot of places. We're talking about a true relic from the absolute dawn of civilization.
And the scale, it is just staggering. The largest stones, which are called sarsens, they weigh up to 40 tons. That is the equivalent of about 6 adult African elephants. And you have to remember, the people who built this had no wheels, no iron tools. This was all just pure, raw human effort.
Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question of them all. Why? Why would you go to all of that trouble? Why dedicate centuries of effort to build this magnificent, mysterious circle? It's this one question that has driven archaeologists, astronomers, and historians for generations.
What's really fascinating is that Stonehenge wasn't just built all at once. Nope. It actually evolved over centuries. Each generation added their own touch, reshaping the monument that they inherited from their ancestors.
So the very first phase, way back around 3000 BC, wasn't even stone. It was a massive circular ditch and bank dug out of the earth. Then later they added wooden posts and it became a burial site. It wasn't in that final phase, starting around 2600 BC, that the iconic stones we all recognize were finally raised. Think about it. This was a project that spanned more than 1,000 years.
Okay, so who were these incredible people? Let's be clear, it wasn't wizards or aliens like some of the wilder stories suggest. The reality is actually way more impressive. The builders were from the late Stone Age and early Bronze Age. They were sophisticated farmers living in really organized communities. And here's the part that gets me. They did all of this with simple tools made from deer antlers, bones, and stone. And since they had no written language, this incredible monument is their only testament. It's the story they left for us. So let's get to the engineering, because this is where the story just becomes truly mind-boggling. How on earth did a society with only primitive tools manage such an incredible feat? Let's focus for a second, not on the giant sarsen stones, but on the so-called smaller blue stones. And I say smaller because they still weigh about 4 tons each. They hold one of Stonehenge's most astonishing secrets. They were quarried right here in the Preseli Hills of Western Wales. And that fact alone is absolutely incredible because of just how far away that is. They transported these multi-ton stones over 250 kilometers of rough terrain. An epic journey that, let's be honest, would be a massive logistical challenge even for us today with all our technology. So this kind of lays out the leading theory of how they did it. They probably quarried the stones using wet wooden wedges to split them. Then they would have hauled them on wooden sledges over logs. To get them standing upright, they dig a huge hole, pull the stone up with ropes, and then build massive earthen ramps to drag the heavy capstones into place. It was just pure human ingenuity and teamwork on an unbelievable scale. So we know who built it, and we have a pretty good idea of how, but that just brings us right back to the ultimate riddle. What was it all for? Let's walk through the leading theories and see what the evidence tells us. The first major theory is that Stonehenge was a massive astronomical observatory. The entire monument is just perfectly aligned with the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice. So it could have been this giant, reliable calendar for these ancient farmers, telling them exactly when to plant their crops and when to harvest. Another really fascinating theory is that it was a place of healing. Why else would you transport those very specific blue stones all the way from Wales? Local folklore actually said that those stones had healing powers. And supporting this idea, a lot of the skeletons found nearby show signs of serious injury or illness, which suggests people were making these long, difficult pilgrimages in search of a cure. But, maybe the most powerful theory, the one backed by a ton of evidence, is that Stonehenge was a vast domain of the dead. Archaeologists have found hundreds of human cremations there, making it the largest Neolithic cemetery in all of Britain. The thinking is that it was a sacred place for the ancestors, while a nearby settlement was the land of the living, and the two were connected by a ceremonial road.
So we've got these two very powerful ideas, right? On one hand, you have the precise astronomical alignments that point to a perfect calendar. But on the other hand, you have the sheer number of human remains that just screams sacred cemetery. So which one is it?
The truth is, even after centuries of study, the monument still holds its secrets pretty close. But as we keep piecing together the clues, a much more complex, much more interesting picture begins to emerge.
And maybe the real answer is that we've been asking the wrong question. It probably wasn't just one thing. For a society that didn't separate science from religion, Stonehenge was likely all of these things at once: a temple for their ancestors, a calendar for the living, and a place of healing, all in one magnificent, sacred place.
Ultimately, the true power of Stonehenge might just be its enduring mystery. It kind of acts like a mirror, reflecting our own questions and ideas back at us. As one writer so perfectly put it, every generation comes to it and finds its own answers.
And that leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? 5,000 years from now, when archaeologists look back at what's left of our world, what silent monuments will they find? What riddles will our civilization leave behind for them to try and figure out?